The Confessions of St. Augustine, a 21st century The City of God. The larva starts to metamorphose, something Ovid spent 15 books and 250 myths on, from creation on, only to be culminated by the deification of Julius Caesar. His magnum opus, Metamorphosis, 8 AD, ranking up there with the Iliad and the Odyssey, Aeneid, the Divine Comedy, Don Quixote, all of which inspired writers such as Dante, Boccaccio, Chaucer, Shakespeare, Milton, Spencer, etc., not to mention how many painters and sculptors, Titian, Bruegel, Bernini, the list is endless during the Renaissance and Baroque period of art. And anyway, back to the larval stage of our hero, since even butterflies can affect world events. Like, who assassinated the Archduke of Austria? And even there, he chickened out the first go-around. Like history gave him a second chance whenever one of the other assassins bungled their chance too, and lo and behold, the fated-to-die Duke retreated the same way he came in, only to meet his originally intended assassin. And what is the definition of the butterfly effect with reference to chaos theory? All of which caused World War I, which caused World War II, which caused... And all because of that one little nebbish. And what was his name? Gavrilo Princip. That was his name. The assassin. Even his name smacks of insignificance. Because isn't she the kind of woman I'd always pictured in my mind growing up? Some ideal that had yet to become a reality? All of which has something to do with the Indians and the road not taken. Living with them. Married to someone like her. Being a successful missionary. Welcome in all their homes. Living out my fantasies in some idyllic land of mesas, golden sunsets, and Indians, Lord. Because if that's the case, then why does it always go back into my paintings and drawings, and why do I always end up contenting myself with merely adding her face to the memory bank, Lord, along with all those other images that epitomize something that harkens back to my childhood? My image of the Indians, and later on being a missionary to them, because somewhere deep down inside me I realize it all seems a lot better off left alone up there in my mind. Anyway, when I snapped out of that reverie, I started thinking again about why are they really here? I mean, I know why the ranchers are. It's like brushing their teeth or putting their clothes away. It's just one more routine. But the Indians... Getting back to the Indians and trying to figure out where they're really at and how can I really connect with them? Because in what could be considered a big breakthrough, I was asked by them if I'd coach their baseball team, an opportunity I couldn't say no to, even though I knew what would happen. First practice we scheduled, only one showed up, and he was an hour late. And he only showed up to tell me the others weren't going to, which didn't surprise me, only the fact that they actually approached me in the first place. That was the breakthrough. Another was when they asked me to show them slides of my paintings. Of Indians. Then they all showed up. One girl even assumed I was an Indian, the one I just mentioned, the one who's always looking at me. I suppose the slides helped a little, and maybe the scalp lock I've grown on the back of my head that goes halfway down my back, but whatever it was, I guess I had some rapport. I've even been asked to speak in their youth group, whenever and if ever they met. But somehow it's got to go beyond that, I figured. Like up front and personal, which Indians are not. But what can you do? I mean, I used to go house to house back with the Sioux, but that was over 30 years ago. A different time, a different place. A leftover of the sleepy Eisenhower years. A time warp in the hinterland where the 60s had yet to reach them. And here we are in the new millennium post-World Trade Center attack and all the other precursors to a world we never knew back then, and certainly a world we never would have expected to have now. The lines back then were drawn around the ideology of economics, capitalism versus communism, or political, democracy versus totalitarianism, instead of religion, Judeo-Christian versus Islam. Who would have guessed 30 years ago? The extent to which religion would play a part in the world never occurred to us. A modern-day crusades, Christian versus the Muslims. About as plausible as 19 hijackers hijacking 3 commercial airplanes with plastic knives and flying them into the Pentagon and the 2 World Trade Towers. So the question I have to ask myself now is, in this new world, how do I, someone who's beginning to feel more and more like a person from the old world, reach a new world? Because to me, it seems all more biblical than ever in its scope. But not only am I still living in an old world, but a world that's so closed I often think I almost have no option but to paint. Since here, outreach is nil. Service is all. The ranchers are a dead end. They know what they know, and few can go beyond that. Out of the mouths of babes, and that's all they'll be, babes. The Indians, on the other hand, are just unresponsive, for reasons that go beyond capability. The challenge there is how. How? Or better yet, do. Do I? Does any non-Indian? Or do I and other non-Indians merely try to be more relevant to their culture? Like Paul again, saying we must be all things to all people. To the Jews I'm a Jew, and to the Greeks I'm a Greek. Because I used to think that if any non-Indian could be an Indian to the Indians, I could. I mean, all the Indian wannabes out there. Sometimes I wonder, why are there so many non-Indians throughout the world who want to be Indian? You know, there are people in Germany even who dress up like Indians, live in teepees on occasions, and have powwows. Anyway, with all this fascination with the American Indian and a desire to be Indian, you'd think there'd be at least one person out of all that who could reach them, getting back to what I brought up in the first place, the Indians. Because I'm only saying all this because I believe we all have to carry out our Lord's Great Commission. The title of the sermon I keep trying unsuccessfully to listen to, remember? But it'd be better if it were done by another Indian. But that's the problem, because there aren't any. Or many. Because of all the people on the face of the earth, who have been more bombarded and yet so resistant? So what does that tell you? Is the Indians? Or the people who preach to them? Or both? Or something else? So should I bother or not? Or am I wasting my time? Or have I merely failed to tap in or connect? Is the message wrong? Are they merely seeing a white Anglo-Saxon God? God as a wasp? But if God is God, then he's truly everyone's God. And of course you just go round and around on that one, and then is the Bible everyone's Bible, they'll ask, or is it merely man's attempt, blah, 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 which comes up every age, etc., and it always comes down to, and eventually back to, either the Bible and Jesus is everything it and he says it is, or it and Jesus is the biggest hoax perpetrated on man. And if it isn't, then I have no choice but to carry out the Great Commission with all the energy, talent, dedication at my disposal. But again, the question as always is, how? To be continued. The Confessions of St. Augustine. Now available on Amazon.com.